They've come from 27 countries to the American Cup Gymnastics Championships. Yes, the world is here, and the lady to beat is an American, Christy Phillips, at 13 years old, the youngest American to compete here. Her coach, the same man who led Mary Lou and Nadia to gold. Phillips, the heir apparent to the throne left vacant by Mary Lou Retton. Today, Coach Bela Karolyi is ready to unleash his new secret weapon. For the men, 19-year-old Brian Ginsberg, who, like Phillips, is attempting to break new ground in his first big international meet. Yes, the world is here, and two young Americans will be in the thick of it. A packed house here in the George Mason University Patriot Center, where more than 8,000 have come to see the world's very best gymnasts.
Hello again, everyone. I'm John Tesh, and welcome to Fairfax, Virginia, for the most prestigious international gymnastic event that's held here in America, the American Cup. What we're going to be seeing today is some of the young stars, some youngsters who weren't even old enough to compete in the 1984 Olympic Games, and some of the oldsters who are trying to hang on so they can reach Seoul in 1988 for the Olympics there. Working with me is our expert, of course, Bart Conner, who retired in '84 Olympic champion. Bart, what we've been seeing over the last year or so is an escalation in the events that almost appears to be dangerous.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, we're seeing a level of difficulty that these gymnasts are expected to do. I mean, triple flips and double twisting double flips. It's getting pretty hairy, but one of the most interesting areas in our sport now is the originality. Everybody's trying to come up with completely new tricks to get those valuable originality points. So we're going to see a lot of good gymnastics.
One of the men who's been pushing the difficulty factor in gymnastics is one of the holdovers from the '84 Olympic team who is pointing to '88. But we won't be seeing Tim Daggett today defend his title here. Daggett, the Olympic gold medalist, was preparing for the vault and showed he was in a lot of pain because of an injured right ankle. Tim tried his best to continue, but the pain proved to be too much. And after a discussion with his coach, Daggett pulled out of the competition here at the American Cup. Now, his problems first became really evident to us when he finished with this dismount on the rings, and watch his face very closely. And Daggett was in pain there. Before the rings was the floor exercise.
You know, Tim is an outstanding gymnast, and he got off to a rough start in floor exercise, which was going to be his toughest event. Right at the beginning, he did the layout double back at the beginning of the exercise, and I know he really munched his ankles when he landed. So he stung him to the point where as he got to vaulting later in the competition, he could not go, he couldn't even run, let alone go ahead and vault.
Now, to this point, the men have completed 4 rotations of 6. Floor exercise, pommel horse, rings, and vault. That leaves the parallel bars and the very exciting and dangerous high bar to come. After those 4 rotations, Ginsberg is in first place. DeConky, Wong, and Barbieri from France. So with Tim Daggett out of the competition with that injury, the American flag has now been passed from him to 19-year-old Brian Ginsberg, and with it all the pressure that will be on this youngster in his first major international competition. The women have completed the vault and the uneven parallel bars. Still to come for them, the balance beam and the floor exercise. The standings for the women after 2, and Christy Phillips, the American, in second place to Irina Baraksanova from the Soviet Union.
Second vault.
Christy Phillips' first vault put her in first place after the first rotation, and it looked like this. Phillips again with that classic, powerful Mary Lou Retton style.
Incredible. That's a round-off onto the board, a back handspring onto the horse, and a laid-out, a tucked, twisting, full twisting backflip off the horse. Very difficult vault, and she handled it perfectly.
It was the uneven parallel bars, though, that cost Phillips her first-place position. She had a disappointing 9.450, and here's a look at that. Watch closely as she will lose her momentum and hit her left leg on the bar. But she still stayed in second place.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Look at that smile. She is such a personality. Now, she's a very good gymnast. She has good technique. She doesn't have the quite explosive skills that Mary Lou did. She's very sharp.
Okay, this is live now. Let's listen in. Here's Bella.
Nicely up. Make sure, those two things has shown. Finishing at the side plate. And extremely hard at the end, not somehow taken too early. To lose tense over there at the end. Bang! Poof!
Now here's Irina Baraksanova, who is our leader, going into the balance beam competition. Here is her balance beam competition, 16 years old.
Baraksanova had a very disastrous day yesterday, as a matter of fact. She fell off the bars, and she fell off the beam once and grabbed the beam another time. Had a terrible day.
Here's a look at yesterday's performance while she was qualifying for today's final.
There's a back handspring to a layout, chest roll down, and look at, she's completely off the beam.
4'7", 77 pounds, and she is our leader.
There's a back handspring on, a little bit wobbly. You have to know that she's got in the back of her mind, here it comes, the skill she missed on yesterday. Back handspring. Ooh, pretty rough. She was able to stay on, which will be less of a deduction than if she completely fell off, but that has to be a few tenths for being that much out of line. Another wobble on an aerial walkover. She doesn't seem as aggressive here as she has been in the past. She's a great performer, though. Notice the tremendous extension. Look at the beautiful split leap. Very elegant performer. Two back handsprings to a layout. That's one of the more difficult tumbling passes you can do.
That beam is 4 feet high and only 4 inches wide.
The beautiful split handstand. Now watch this. A reverse planche. Look at the tremendous back flexibility.
It's said that Baraksanova has the elegance of Ludmila Teresheva and the bouncing style of Olga Korbut. Ludmila Teresheva, of course, 1972 Olympic gold medalist. And she has that classic Soviet look, doesn't she?
Without a doubt, she's very elegant for being so young. Round off, double back. Okay, one little step. She's got quite a few bobbles in that exercise. It won't score that high, so it's going to open the door for Christy Phillips.
So trying to stay in first place is Irina Baraksanova, who was in first place going into this rotation. Just ahead of Christy Phillips, and here's the replay.
Here's her dismount. Round off onto the end. Good reach, a little cowboy, but a very high landing. Good double backflip.
This young lady achieved prominence in the 1985 World Championships in Montreal when, you may remember, she was pulled out of the competition. They said that she had an injury, the Soviets said, and that allowed the 3rd and 4th place Soviets to go on to the finals and eventually win. There was a lot of controversy surrounding that.
Well, a lot of people weren't quite sure that she really had an injury, but she mentioned to us that she really did have a problem with her shoulder, and it would have been really tough to have been pulled out of the competition when you were 4th in the running.
She's never been to the United States. When we spoke to her 2 days ago, we spent about an hour with her, and I think we caught about 2 sentences. She's painfully shy. So again, Baraksanova waiting for her score on the balance beam, which will come from 6 judges. High and low will be thrown out, and the average will be coming up here, and that's a 9.40.
Now we move to parallel bars. And
her total, 28.863. So since she was the first in this rotation, she is still our leader. Still to come will be Christy Phillips from the United States. We're alternating men and women here with 2 rotations left. And this is Ulf Hoffmann from East Germany.
He's had a very good competition so far on the first 4 pieces of apparatus. But these, I think, are 2 of his best, the parallel bars and the high bar, the 2 we're about to see. Front uprise. It's a move called a Healy twirl to a front 1 1/4. Very nice combination of originality. Another Healy twirl. Gymnastics has its own language, as you can tell. It's a Stutz. Double back.
Whoops.
Okay, 1 step on the landing, but a pretty good exercise. That'll keep him in the running.
Well, he was 5th coming into this rotation, so he'll have to move up if he's going to get close to first place. Again, Brian Ginsberg, who you'll see later on this same apparatus, is our leader going into this rotation. We're waiting for the score. Let's look at the replay.
There's the Stutz before the end of the exercise. You can't wobble too much up there. A nice double back. A little bit low, but not bad.
Again, it gives you a chance to show
Ulf Hoffmann, born in Neustrelitz, halfway between Berlin and the Baltic Sea. On the other side of the floor is Christy Phillips, the youngest American ever to compete in this championship. She'll be up on the beam, the apparatus we just saw Baraksanova compete on. She is excellent on this piece of apparatus, and she has a chance to take the lead. But she'll wait, as Hoffman will wait for his score, a 9.70. So he'll be our men's leader at this point, and since he was the first to compete in the rotation. Now, Christy Phillips.
Christy is great on the beam. She has a very difficult exercise. Look at this. Look at the back flexibility on that front limber going sideways on the beam. Whoops. A little bit of a bobble on a full turn there. It was a 1 1/4, but she's a good performer. She knows how to make the best of the situation. There's a round-off layout. Okay. She has to know that a good performance here could put her into the lead because the Soviet did open the door.
When we spoke with her coach, Bella Caroli, yesterday, he said that at this age, she's even better than Mary Lou was. Remember, Bella has coached both Mary Lou and Nadia Comaneci to Olympic golds. Christy Phillips actually moved to Houston from Baton Rouge, and she's living there with her mom while her dad lives back at home. Now watch this.
Just like Baraksanova, there's a reverse planche. Now Christy does what they call the Phillips, a straddled reverse planche. Everybody's looking for those originality points these days. She's in good shape so far. Okay. Nice side somersault. Look at her face. She knows if she can just get through this dismount, this could put her in the lead. Double twist. And she nails the landing. That could be it.
A little shaky, but it's done. All right.
Bella Caroli calls her his little bug. And there's her mother, Terry Phillips, who has come here from Houston. I'm sure she's been adding up the scores herself.
Okay.
Okay, here is the back flexibility on this reverse planche. Now, once she hits that position, she's going to straddle her legs and pike a little bit and do her own original version of that skill. Look at that right angle bend in the back. Unbelievable flexibility.
She needs a 9-6 to take the lead away from the Soviet. So now the anxious moments of waiting. Only gets home twice a year to Baton Rouge while she's training in Houston. Looking at the Soviet Baraksanova during practice on Friday, she told me, gee, she looks so perfect, I don't know how I'd ever be able to beat her. 9-6-7-5 is the score as we have it, which now gives Christy Phillips the lead once again. So now Christy Phillips, our leader, with that familiar hug from Bella Caroli, who we've seen many times in that same position with Mary Lou Retton. Here is Brian Ginsberg, our men's leader, coming into this rotation.
We've talked about how unfortunate it is that Tim Daggett had to drop out of the competition, but if he had to leave way for an American, this is the guy. Brian is a great exercise here. Interesting skill right at the beginning. Nice peach hand and a front giant, which you don't see very many of those. He'll get originality points for that.
Ooh.
Okay, a little bit over on his back giant. That'll cost him a couple of tens.
Ginsberg needs a 9-2 to jump into the lead. But still to come after him will be the Soviet. There's a great strength move.
Fantastic. A straddle planche pressed to a handstand. Double back. Okay. He sure knows how to flip those double backs, and I'm sure he's glad to get through with that exercise.
Tim Daggett had to withdraw from the competition because of an injury he sustained on the floor exercise, and now Brian Ginsberg has jumped right back in there into the lead ahead of some of the best in the world, including the Soviets and the Chinese.
Here is the planche. Notice the tremendous leverage strength as he presses back up to the handstand. He's 5'2", only 105 pounds, and no muscle, no body fat on this guy whatsoever, let me tell you.
Says he originally got into gymnastics because he was hyper as a kid, and he told us he used to climb out of his crib and was always doing headstands in the back of the family car. Sounds like something you might do, Bart.
I tell you, I think a lot of us got into gymnastics because our parents found that we were breaking too many pieces of furniture around the house. I did cartwheels and flips off of everything we had.
I think a lot of Ginsburg's excitement and maybe even ability here has come from this packed house full of Americans, 8,500 here in Fairfax, Virginia.
Cameras, please. The athletes have requested that you not use flash. Brian
Still waiting for the score.
9.65.
A 9.65. So he is our new leader. He retains the lead, rather, in this rotation. So both American men and women lead here at the American Cup Gymnastics. We'll be back with more gymnastics in just a moment.
The American Cup Gymnastics Championships are sponsored by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. Ace Hardware Corporation. U.S. Sprint, where every fiber optic call will sound like you're right next door. And by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's.
Welcome back to the 1986 American Cup Gymnastics Championships. I'm John Tesh, along with Bart Conner. A 9.675 on the balance beam gave the youngster 13-year-old American Christy Phillips back the lead here in the competition. And here's a look now at that performance.
Here's the back straddle down, right in line, as opposed to her Soviet competitor, Baroksanova, who was out of line and lost a couple of tenths of a point.
Baroksanova actually, as you recall, scored a 9.4 after she fell off the beam.
Here's this tremendous flexibility again in the reverse planche. And then a trick I'm sure we'll soon be calling the Phillips. A straddle reverse planche. He presses back around.
And again, it was this highly original routine that put Christy back in first place with one exercise left, the floor exercise.
Good work here on the side somersault. A little wobbly there, but that is a very difficult move. One of the toughest ones to do.
Well, it gave her a good score of 9.675. And right now, Christy Phillips, as we complete her dismount there, is with our Peter Corman. Peter.
Christy, great job. You have amazed everybody in this auditorium. A tremendous, tremendous job on 3 events. What was going through your mind as you were doing that balance beam routine?
I was just nervous because I knew if I didn't make it that my chances for first were gone with. And so I was just saying, just stay calm, you can do it, and just do it as good as you can so I can win first, maybe. I hope so.
And how about floor exercise to come now? You got an audience that's behind you. Everybody's enjoyed watching you. Are you going to have a good time out there?
Yes, I sure am. And being that floor is one of my better events, I hope I can pull it through.
Great. Well, I know you're going to please us all. Keep going. Keep up the good work and try to win another American Cup for us. Thanks a lot. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Peter. We'll be back with more gymnastics after this word from your local station. Welcome back to the 1986 American Cup Gymnastics Championships. A confrontation Soviet-American developing for the women and for the men as well. After 4 rotations, a look at the standings here. And Brian Ginsburg from the United States just ahead of the Soviet gymnast Alexei Tikhonki. Still to come for all the gymnasts here are the parallel bars and the very dangerous high bar. And Tikhonki has a very excellent parallel bar routine, so he'll be one to watch. Brian Ginsburg assuming the mantle of leader for the United States after Tim Daggett had to withdraw from the competition. And Ginsburg is now with our Peter Corman.
Thank you, John. Brian Ginsburg, you have amazed everybody. We've never seen you in a competition like the American Cup, and suddenly you're in first place. How does it feel?
It feels great. I've never been in this big of an international competition, and I came in here with the attitude just hitting my sets, and whatever happens is great. And now I found I'm in first place, and this is, I mean, the best thing that's ever happened to me so far.
Do you think you can keep the lead now? You have high bar to go, one more big event. What's it going to take out there?
I'm just going to do what I did yesterday and try to hit my set. And, you know, whatever happens, you know, it'll be great.
Great job. Back to you, John.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much. Now, next to come will be Alexei Tikhonki from the Soviet Union, as I mentioned. He has his work cut out for him because he would have to have a perfect score of 10.0 to move into the lead ahead of Ginsburg.
And of course, we've talked about the new judging rules and the restrictions in the scores. It's very, very difficult, and you very rarely see a perfect 10 anymore. The judges are getting very tight with those scores, but this guy's going to push that, Mark. I'll tell you, he has a great exercise. One of the longest routines I've ever seen.
I'll tell you, it's one of the most dangerous ones I've ever seen as well.
Front toss out of a cast support. Notice how sharp he is. Beautiful giant swing right to the top. Fantastic. Diamidov. Notice everything is very aggressive and very sure of himself. Back toss. Back toss. 2 in a row. Here's a dismount, a pike double back, and he nailed it. That was an outrageous exercise.
Well, I'm sure he knew he had to score a perfect 10. If he came up with that type of performance, they don't give many of them these days, and there hasn't been one either. Alexander.
The second half of this rotation.
Born in 1961 in Leninsk-Kuznetsk, a Siberian town of 500,000 people.
Here's the back toss, and another one right in a row, and a pike double back. Talking about nailing a landing. That's what you have to do for the big score.
So now again, 4 judges for the men. The high and the low will be thrown out, and that'll give us our average, which will let us know in which position Alexei Tikhonki from the Soviet Union will stand.
He was a very strong member of their World Championship team this past November in Montreal. They won and nearly killed all the other teams, as a matter of fact. The Soviets are so strong.
Tikhonki's name in Russian actually means the quiet one, which we found out after we interviewed the Soviet girl Baraksanova and Alexei, because we got about 3 or 4 words out of him. The mark that we have right now is a 9.9 for Tikhonki. 9.9, 1/10 away from perfection. So he does not pass Ginsburg, but that's the highest score we've seen today here.
And the crowd loves it. They are really supporting him because he is a great performer.
But still, Brian Ginsburg leads here at the American Cup Gymnastics competition. It is a real dogfight. We'll be back. Welcome back. Halfway through the 5th rotation. Here's a look at the standings. Brian Ginsburg, Alexei Tikhonki, Ulf Hoffman. And Ginsburg was not the favorite coming into this meet, Bart Conner. It was Tim Daggett. There he is, Brian Ginsburg, 19 years old, in his first international